So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, and I'd like to talk you through how I used quantum, how I time traveled, and I'm going to show you how we've overcomplicated time traveling. And when you start using your imagination and connecting your dots, one choice to another choice. And the beauty of this, it doesn't always have to start from now. This is where we go to our destination, the end point in mind. And if you get a meditation and you're shown the truth, you felt it, you experienced it, that defines as real. Your feelings are the truth. So from that truth, we then work backwards. So we connect the dots from the destination back to now, ourself. And that can be overcomplicated when we look at it from the mind. However, when your eyes are closed and you become one with the soul, you will get there in the speed of light. You will see the removal of time to emit. So whenever you now work on time, think of the physical. Whenever we look to emit the light, think of the meditation. So closing your eyes, I'm going to tell you a story. A true story. September 2021. And whilst I'm talking, take your attention inside your body. September 2021. I'd been in Brazil for 5 months. And you could call this the height of the COVID pandemic. We all remember that. An interesting time for all. I got away from all the chaos, all the drama. I was inland, in the middle of nowhere, self-sufficient. 8 mango trees in my garden. And I kept out of all that noise. However, my mum being my mum, they had just moved house after about 43 years. Moved down to a new place in the UK, which I had yet to visit. She wanted me to come back for Christmas. My intention, I want to stay in Brazil. I've got it sweet out here. Beach every day, acai bowl, working from my computer. It was cool. However, I thought I'd come back for 3 weeks to see my mum. And if you remember, during COVID, there was these lockdown procedures and quarantine. And we used to have colour-coordinated countries. Brazil was a red zone country. And UK government had a legal requirement, and I'm mentioning the word legal, that to only come back to the country, you had to do 10 days quarantine in a hotel. You had to spend £2,500 for those 10 days. And you only got 1 hour out of the hotel walking around the car park. And this was all an emergency act for something called COVID. I am a man of my words and a man of the law. In the Bible, it states the law. The law is the land, air, and water. The law is for the common people, common law. Universal law, God's law. We were all destined to have that as a truth. That's inherent within us. When it becomes illegal, an act, a legislation, a registration, legal requires a contract, an agreement. And a lot of time they use the legal system, the words, as deception to trick you into contracts. However, we won't go there, but just to set the time. So the requirement was, under the Emergency Act 2020, COVID, you had to go into quarantine. Because I know my rights and I know the law, and also I disagreed with all the stuff that was going on. I kept away from that. I then said, I will go back to the UK, but I will get back there using my rights. And I'll go straight home. There's no way I will be doing it. And I set that as my goal. To add to it, I said I would record my journey back. I'd use that as information. I use that as inspiration. I use that as content. So on the way back, I had this in my head for a long time, and meditation at that point was getting quite strong. A lot of time on my own, a lot of insights used to come my way. So I'd go into meditations. And in my meditations, I would look at every possible outcome, going back home, my destination, back to my mum and dad's house, no problems, no dramas, do my time there and come back to Brazil. So that's what I took into the meditation. What does this look like? So in the meditation, I'm looking at always, starting from there, what barriers am I going to be met with? What conversations are going to show up? How am I going to be engaged with energy coming my way? What do I say? What is my plan of action? So many different things to take into the meditation, but one dot connects to another. My truth is that I was well within my rights, my lawful rights. My truth, I wanted to go and see my mum and dad for Christmas. My truth is I disagreed with all of what was going on because it was illegal. So that was my truth. So whatever comes in my way, I had to be prepared. I look at each scenario step by step. So in the meditations, you can ask yourself, what resistance am I going to be met with? What conversations are going to rise? What will they say? And the beauty of when you go into these spaces, especially when it is conversations with others, you can predict the outcomes. Usually there might be 5 things. You ask a question, around 5 things that someone can answer. You can predict all 5. If they said this, if they said that. You can then have conversations within your meditations ahead of time. If they say that, what do I now say next? How do I bring it back to my truth? And my truth is the law. So with that truth, I have a powerful question attached to that, which I know if that question cannot be answered, I'm well within my rights, and I stick on that. So my question, what law have I broken? In my head, I could see all the different reasons why I couldn't come in. You're breaking rules, you're going to get arrested, you're going to get fined. They can say all they want, that's all from the mind, but my truth is, what law is that? So every time to dismiss all the different outcomes, because there's multiple ones from the mind, what law is that? What law is that? What law is that? Another part of that trip back was, if you remember, the PCR tests. What a lot of people don't know, in July 2021, the PCR tests failed their emergency testing protocols. They failed. Yet they left them out for another 6 months, and they said we'll discontinue them December 31st. And you can see that on the CDC website, the FDA website. I managed to find that information quite quickly. So the other thing about traveling was you needed a PCR test to show that you'd done a PCR test. Again, because it's an emergency and an act, there's no law. So my truth on that one, if they don't work, my question, why would I need a PCR test? You need to have one because of this, but why would I have one if they don't work? You can't get on the plane, but can you tell me if they don't work, why would I have one? We're just doing our job, but I've just shown you they don't work, so why would I have one? All of those outcomes, and people could say all sorts of things. My question shields that truth. The law, what law? It shields my truth. And then the last part of that, worst case scenario. Looking at the full spectrum, what would that look like? And the worst case scenario, if I stayed within my rights, my law, which is cause no harm, cause no loss, which none of that would have happened. Disturbing the peace was the third. Breach of peace. So that really means remain calm and you will be well within your rights. Usually when people get challenged and frustrated, they then go into a state of anger, frustration, and you've broken the law. So the last one was the worst case scenario. If I stayed calm, I spoke my truth, I'd be put inside a cell for 24 hours and they would have to let me go. I was prepared to go into the cell for 24 hours. I even imagined meditating in the cell. And I realized at that point then, there's nothing that they could do after. They would have to let me go. There's no evidence. I give them no other reasons to keep me in or detained. And then when you know your rights, when it becomes illegal, it's a contract. So they tell you one thing, you need to pay $2,500, you need to do this. If it's a contract, you can set the rules too. So for every hour that I was in the cell, I was invoicing them £1,000 an hour. So coming back to the UK, I had all these scenarios in my head to the point where a 12-hour flight from Brazil, I meditated the entire time. And I was so set on getting back home. It was like I'd already done it. I then get back to the airport in the UK. Managed to get through France, get out of Brazil, all stood on my truth. One of the powerful teachings, just to add to this, is no does not mean no. People say no to tick a box if they're doing their job, but your truth, you can stand on it too. So if you stay persistent, and when there's a will, there's a way, you will find the way. So get back to the UK, and lo and behold, they didn't let me in. The immigration said you will have to go to the hotel quarantine. Everyone does. And because I knew my rights, they wouldn't let me in. I asked them to go and get the police. And in my head, I'd already gone through the role play of the whole police. How to work the police, what to say to the police, what law have I broken. Simple. I had a few more things to take with me, which I'll share. The police come, and it was a bit of a standoff. I remained calm. My phone was out. To the point where they unlawfully arrested me. But they didn't really know what was going on, and there was no reason to arrest me. They didn't actually tell me why. I went through to the police station. I stayed in a cell 5 hours. They let me go. They had to let me go. It was an expensive day for them on that side, but they had no grounds to arrest me. No law. And I managed to get home, no problems after that, and my life changed. Took on a new directory. My life changed. It took on a new trajectory. So coming back to that story, the reason why I shared with you that every part of the way I had it acted out in my head, in my meditation. I went through the conversations, the back and forths. And when I found my power questions, I could always bring it back to that. And I managed to get through inflow. Was there nerves? Yes. But I'd been there before. So quantum is going into these scenarios and you looking at every outcome. You look it through different perspectives. Start from their truth. You're not coming in. I've got a job to do. I've got to tick these boxes. I've got to be seen doing this. Everyone else goes in there. This is what I say. Start from their truth. Look at the higher perspective, the back and forth, the energy of the conversation. And then stay with your truth and stand on that all the way through. Using the same way, visualization. If you visualize the outcome from one perspective, if something comes out of the ordinary and you're not prepared, the body goes into fight or flight, a state of fear. And sometimes that shock can put us out of presence. The difference in sports terms difference to win a race. So coming on to sports, the quantum. Chris Hoy, Olympic racer, training for Olympic Games to win. He's a Romanian champion, to win the gold medal.